Vanessa, the Crafty Gemini. I post weekly videos right here on my YouTube channel.
And in the sixth and final video of my garden confetti quilt along, we are laying out our block design and finishing off our quilt.
All right, so I'm working with option number 2, and you can see, you probably can't see all the way down to the bottom, but I have all 20 blocks already created and placed on the wall, or on my design wall, in the same orientation as they are in the printed sheet that I've included for you in the description box below. It's on the page for the quilt along, so you can look at each individual block, see the print that I use, and go ahead and create them just like this. Then at this point, if you like the layout, if you've chosen one of the 3 layouts that I provided you with in the printable sheet, then you can do it like that, and then you would just have to sew all the blocks together across in rows together. I typically will do half of the quilt at a time, so I will piece these 4, then piece these 4, and then I'll combine those 2 rows to end up with a big block here that's made up of 8. And then I will do the same thing, but doing it with 12, okay? Because I have 3 rows down here. Since we have basically 4 blocks across by 5 blocks down for a total of 20. At this point, though, if you don't like any of the 3 options that I've given you for the different design layouts, you can start playing a little swapping game here and make up your own design layout to come up with your own completely customized quilt design. The only thing, remember, that I mentioned was to be mindful of the directional prints. Now, there are some other directional prints in here, like the palms, but for me, because it's a tone-on-tone fabric and the design is really densely printed across the whole thing, I use them more like solids. So personally, for me, it doesn't really matter if these palms are facing up or they're sideways or upside down. And because we've cut some of those squares on the diagonal, you will end up with that as well. Like some of the directional, like in this one here, the coral palms are going to the right. Here they're going down. For me, I like that. It doesn't matter. For you, you might want to think a little bit more about how you're orienting your fabric pieces before you cut them to create your quilt blocks. Now, we have 3 little casitas or house print blocks in this quilt. Here, I oriented it correctly. In this one, I oriented it correctly as well. You can't see it, but it's down here. And then the first block that I showed you how to make is up here, and it's oriented incorrectly on the side. Now, for me, it doesn't really matter. If this quilt is going to be hung on the wall and this is the way you're going to orient it, then yes, I do think it's going to stand out a little bit more, because if you have the quilt oriented this way, then you can see that something is up with that block since it's not hanging the rest or the same way that the rest of it should. But if you're going to be using this quilt on a bed or to give it as a gift, or it's just going to be draped over something, you're not necessarily going to drape it exactly in this orientation. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're laying it side to side, then all the prints are going to be going side to side. So in an instance like that where you're making this as a gift or more for functional use, and maybe you went through making the blocks and you didn't think about it, don't worry about it too much. It's not the end of the world. You're still going to end up with a gorgeous quilt with all these fresh, bright colors. And that's it, really. The next thing you need to do is piece these guys together. So I am going to get to work on sewing these up to make the entire quilt top, and I'll meet you back here once it's done. All right, and here is my finished quilt top for the Garden Confetti Quilt. The next step is, of course, to layer it with your batting, backing fabric, and to quilt it any way that you want. Keep in mind that those large white open spaces are going to be great for filling in with all types of fun free motion quilting, hand quilting, or just some basic walking foot quilting on your regular sewing machine. Now, although not everybody has a long arm quilting machine, I like to show sometimes in my quilt projects what I end up doing so that you could, if you're in the market for a long arm machine, you can kind of see how it works. Or if you're wanting to take your finished quilt top to a long armor, you can kind of see how it goes. I do my long arming all freehand, meaning I don't have any computerized software on here or anything. So I am just going to select it. I like to stitch out in manual mode, so that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm just going to start doing some kind of meandering shapes and some swirls. And that's just what I've chosen to do for this one with a white thread. And you'll notice that it's cool to play around with different thread colors. Some beginners may not know that white would look great on this quilt, even though we have large spaces of white. Wherever the white crosses the red or the teals and things, it really pops and it looks really good. So I've chosen a white thread, and here we go.
And that's it. All you have left to do is to quilt your entire quilt top, sandwich with the batting and backing fabric. After that, go ahead and trim it up and attach your binding in whatever fabric you choose, and then your garden confetti quilt will be complete. I hope that you all enjoyed following along with me in these step-by-step video lessons in the Garden Confetti Quilt Along. Remember that I always include a link in the description box below on where you can find the fabrics, materials, and anything else that I use in the video tutorial to create this quilt. Thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit it with the thumbs up below, share it across the different social media sites, and don't forget to click the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of my future videos.